Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Good evening. To recording in progress, Likutey Moharan. We are learning Torah Chaf Zayin. We are towards the ready for takeoff. We are on the runway, and which is Seif Zayin. So a quick recap of how we got to where we are, and then B'ezrat Hashem, we will continue. So after we have explained that it is through strict adherence to morality, a person is zeicher to explain, expound, and comprehend the Torah in accordance to the 13 codes, the 13 midos she'Torah nidreshes b'hem, which is something that we say every morning at the end of Korbanos. Now, those 13 traits, midos, you can even call it, in computer programming, you have like, if A is so and B is so, then C is so. Which is the way that they write lines of codes for computer. This is basically what the 13 midos she'Torah nidreshes b'hem. And you have kal v'chomer, if the halacha on a more lenient case is so, when a more stringent case presents itself, how much more so the halacha should be that way. Gzeira Shava is where you identify common factors in two separate inyonim, and then you can learn one from the other. There's also the nekuda that whereas kal v'chomer, the case in a lighter case, in a stricter case, a person can learn it on his own. Says we have a klal of ein odom dan gzeira shava me'atzmai. You cannot, say, hey, the case in this case is so, and in this particular scenario is so therefore we can learn from this to that. Gzeira shava. You cannot do that. You can only receive gzeira shava from your Rebbe. It's a very important point to understand, because our purpose in this world is to refine our power of imagination. You can, without getting into what is the definition of power of imagination, we can more easily define what its role is. And the role of the power of imagination, is the interface between pure intellect, which is the seichel, and physical reality. Pure intellect has absolutely nothing to do with physical reality. The way to deal with physical reality, this is good, this is bad, you do this, you do that. Pure intellect says only what is true and what is false. This is it. The comparison, what is better, what is this, what is that, what is preferable, that any kind of dealing with reality, with physical, corporeal reality, is the role of Koyach HaMedama. The only problem is, Koyach HaMedama is an amazing thing. It is the messenger of your intellect. Your intellect can interact with physical reality, with people, whatever it is, through this amazing power. Nevertheless, it's a funny kind of, it's a double-edged sword. The very same way that it can let you know the two seemingly unrelated things are actually related, it can also very easily convince you that two totally unrelated things are actually related. So, it can help you and it can fool you. The only way that you can use it and rely on it is by refining it. Zeira Shava is a classical use of Koyach HaMedama. Medama means comparison. You're comparing one case with another case, and you're saying this case enjoys certain attributes, which this case also enjoys. Therefore, I will learn the deal, the halacha for this one from this one. I am creating a connection between them. Xera Shava. This is a pure usage of the power of imagination. Chazal says you cannot create a Xera Shava from your own mind. Xera Shava must be something that you get from your Rebbe, where the power of imagination was already totally refined in that particular case. We have 13 of those. We said that they emanate from the 13 Midos of Rachamim. Tremendous inyonim. We can speak for hours and hours and hours about those things. And the thing is that once you are learning Torah using 13 Midos, Torah Nidreshes Bahem, that the Torah is expounded by, you're actually pulling the string on a much higher reality of the 13 Midos of Rachamim, in which this is the in case of fire break glass ability to exert imperial override, presidential pardon, as it were, onto reality when we seriously goof up. And this is the 13 Midos Rachamim. When you are mastering the 13 Midos Shater and Dreshes Bahem, which are actually, a trickle down reality from the 13 Midos Rachamim, when you perfect the lower, you also achieve a shefa from the highest source of those 13 Midos. And what happens is that you are zoiche to or upon him, to hadras upon him, to a glowing of the face. And when a person is zoiche to hadras upon him, that purifies the voice of his singing, his music, as it were. And we went through this at great length. And when a person is in control of the music of his words, he is achieving a state of peace. You can, as we said, you can say the same words, and it is the music with which you say the words that can make all the difference. As we said, where have you been? Oh, where have you been? Where have you been? Same words, 3 different tunes. a world of difference between the three of them. But beyond the control that you have of the music of behind your words, there's also the quality of your music, which doesn't stem from your intentions. It stems from your inner purity. This is why it is so important to listen to a recording of Gedolim from previous generations. Because besides the words that they use, you are zoicha to hear their music, their call. And the call has within it qualities which are way beyond the words, because the words are in the malchus, in the mouth, but the call is in the throat. It comes before it. And a lot more can be said with voice alone beyond the words. So when you listen to people that have spent their time learning Torah, and with the Shloshes Midos that was Zeicha to Hadaspanim, they are Zeicha to a purification of their music, and Mimela they're Zeicha to Shalom. And Zeicha to Shalom, this is how you can pull the entire world, join one another, and serve Kadosh Baruch Hu as one. This is, and that's one thing that a person gets. The second thing, on top of that, is when a person is zeicha to purify the sound of his own music. If this person is being persecuted by anyone in any situation, and that person calls out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even without saying anything, just by hearing the sound of his music, of his tune, HaKadosh Baruch Hu delivers him, even without speech. And we also said that Am Yisrael was zeicha to all this when they got the Torah in Har Sinai, and to the point that they received the Shabbos. They came out of Yam Suf, they got into Yam Suf, they crossed the Yam Suf through Shmiras Habris and Yosef with them. Shmiras Habris got them, to Shloshes Midos, all the way they got, they saw the Kodesh Baruch Hu, they said that the heavens opened and the Kodesh Baruch Hu was revealed to them, Kezoken Mole Rachamim, like an old man filled with compassion. There's no better description of 13 midos sherachamim. That's the power of the Caesar, the presidential pardon, that exceeds all authority in our world. Through this, they got Shabbos. Shabbos is Shalom, Shabbos Shalom, as we know. And now they got the Shabbos, and which is the Shalom. Now, Rabbeinu at Seif Zayin, Rabbeinu is going to get into what is Shalom and how can you actually get it. And Rabbeinu says something, this is very, very important nekuda for us to understand every single thing here. The Dafka B'Mara, what did they receive the mitzvah of Shabbos? They came to a water lagoon in the desert. Now, water in the desert, sweet water, water has all kinds of minerals in it, and much of them is salt. And in the desert, obviously, the sun causes water to evaporate. And what happens is, even in a natural state, is that the water is extremely bitter, to the point that it's impossible to drink. So they reached this water lagoon. They came out of Mitzrayim. They went into the desert, and they come to a source of water that's thirsty, and they come to a lagoon that is bitter to the point that it is impossible to drink. And the people, they raise a great howl. I mean, you didn't bring us out to the desert to kill us of thirst. Moshe Rabbeinu calls out to Kodesh Baruch Hu shows him a tree, and he throws the tree into the water, and it sweetens the water. This is where they got the mitzvah of Shabbos. That bitter lagoon is called Mara. Mara is bitter. So Rabbeinu says as follows: "Dafka b'Mara kiblu Shabbos Shalom." It is not a coincidence that they receive Shabbos Shalom dafka in this bitter lagoon of bitterness. Kichen derech hashalom liyislabesh b'Mara. It is the usual and the custom of peace to be mislabish, to be expressed, to be cloaked in bitterness. Bivchinas, this is Chizkiyahu Melech, when he was healed from his illness. He says, Hineh lashalom mar li mar. Here it is to peace. In Shayahu, actually, the pasuk says, Hineh lashalom mar li mar. Here is to peace. It is very bitter to me. And you, v'ata chashakta nafshi mishachas bli, and you have desired my soul not to go, to the netherworld. For you have discarded behind your shoulder, as it were, all my sins. Rashi explains, here's to peace. It is very bitter to me. I was told I got the good news of peace even when it was bitter. Why? Because they were telling my refuah with somebody else's chos. How did he get his refuah? The Navi told, Chizkiyahu Melech, we know that the Navi Shayahu came to him and told him, he was sick. Shayahu came to him and told him, prepare your last will and testament, because you're not getting off this bed. So Chizkiyahu Melech, who was a huge tzaddik, I think he was a cousin of Yeshayahu Navi, told him, Ben Amoitz, Yeshayahu Ben Amoitz, go out, exit, go away. I have a Kabbalah from Beis Abba, from the house of my father, that even if a sharp sword is hanging on a thread over a person's head, he should never ever despair himself from the mercy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he turned his face to the wall and he davened. And as Yeshayahu, he told him to go out, so Yeshayahu went out. On the way out, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has already revealed himself to Yeshayahu and goes back to him, to Chizkiyahu Melech, and let him know that I have received his tefillah and I have added 15 years to his life. And he says that Vayasef Chizkiyahu Ponav Elakir, and Chizkiyahu turned his face to the wall. So Chazal said, what's the difference of the wall? So you learn halacha that a person nothing should stop between you and the wall. But he says, no, the thing is that he banged his head into the walls of his heart. He asked from the depths of his heart. So when Yeshayahu came back, he told him, thus said Hashem, the Lord of David, your forefather. In other words, the reason why you got a refuah is not because you're such a big tzaddik. It's the schus of David HaMelech, your grandfather. So Yeshayahu said, Rashi says, L'shalom alima, I got a b'soyer and I'm going to live. But it's a bitter, it came, as a bitter pill. The bitter pill is that I'm not getting it with my schos, I'm getting it, as a freebie, called the schos of David HaMelech. So it comes wrapped in bitterness. And Inela Shalom Malima, when I was told that I'm going to be delivered from the hand of Sancheriv, and it is bitter to me on my illness that I was about to die, he says, and I did not gladden on this Besorah, you, because it wasn't my schos, it was schos of somebody else. And you, Ribono Shel Olam, with your grace and compassion, you wanted my nefesh not to descend to the netherworld. So Rabbeinu says, "Kmo shekol refuas besamim marim." All the refuas are embedded in bitter medicine. The same thing is shalom. Shalom is the refuah, says Rabbeinu, to absolutely everything, both to the ills of the body, because all the ills of the body are where the balance of the primordial elements of the body are out of balance. That one element overcomes the other. And when there is a peace in a person's body, the body is the best doctor. The minute that peace is restored amongst the elements, the body cures itself automatically. And it's also the same thing to the ills of the nefesh, of the spirit, of the mental, because it is a machlokes between the neshama and the body. And therefore is to make peace between them, that the body will do what the neshama tells it to. B'vchinas, this is what it says, La shalom, la rochok, v'la korov, peace unto that who is far, and unto that who is close. Omer Hashem v'rafosiv. Hashem said, and I shall heal him. What is inherent in his is that the shalom itself is the refuah, and it also comes through bitterness. Lifamim, sometimes achusha geveres kol kach, sometimes the weakness, gets to such a point, until it is not possible for the sick person to sustain the bitterness and the pain that the medicine causes. We all know. Then the doctors pull their hands from the choyle, then they despair him, they tell him there's nothing that can be done. Kachsha, Voinus, the same thing. When the Averis, who are Choyle HaNefesh, which is the illness of, which is a mental illness, it's a true mental illness. Goivri Me'oid, when the Voinus, are compounded, as any chol is bol meriris refus, because the Averis are so numerous, a person must go through a protocol of Yisurim, of suffering, in order to fix whatever it is that he has damaged. Ve'az en shalom omer l'rashoim. No peace, Hashem said, to the wicked. The wicked cannot achieve peace. In other words, the Yisraelim do not receive the peace between the body and the neshama. Because of the multitude and the compounding of their averis, they cannot possibly sustain the bitterness of the Yisurim that they have to go through. But a Kodesh Baruch Hu is filled with rachamim. Kodesh Baruch Hu is filled with compassion. When he sees that the person really wants to do tshuva, but he doesn't have the ability to suffer, whatever it is that he needs to suffer in order to cleanse himself. So Kodesh Baruch Hu has rachmanis on him, and he takes the bulk of a person of Averis and discards it, as it were, behind his shoulder. It's just, okay, let's just cross all this. Let's forget about this. This you don't need to correct anymore. You get a presidential pardon on this bulk of your Averis. You don't have to suffer so much Averis. So a person doesn't have to suffer so much for Averis, only in accordance to his ability. This is the praise that Chizkiyahu praised the Kodesh Baruch Hu. That he threw, the Kodesh Baruch Hu discarded all of Chizkiyahu's sins behind the Kodesh Baruch Hu's shoulder, as it were. In other words, let's forget about this. Let's just forget about it. So he doesn't have to cloak and infuse the shalom, the refuah, with a lot of bitterness, with a lot of suffering. Hinela shalom marli mar. Hine is to peace. It's bitterness within bitterness, because Kizayah Dur Rabbeinu says that this is a known thing. Kin shalom, for peace, bitterness is necessary. And you have desired my nefesh not to go to the netherworld. Because you knew I don't have the ability to suffer like that, commensurately with that which I transgressed. So therefore, you threw behind you, you discarded behind you all my sins. So that the shalom will be fused and will be addressed, will be administered in bitterness, that is commensurate more with my ability to sustain. This is what we said, through Hadrasponim, the purity of the voice. This is how you read Shalom. It is also alluded to in the Pasuk in Bereshis, V'Avram Zoken, and Avram is old. Aldei Zoken is Hadrasponim, Dikna, the 13 Midah Sherachamim, and through that, Vashem Berechas Avram Bakol, Hashem has blessed Avram with everything. What is everything? B'Shalom. Moshe Kosov Oisa Shalom Uvere Esakol. as because Baruch Hu does shalom and creates everything. There's one nakuda that people like us, people our age, have to understand. Rabbeinu says that a person needs to preserve the memory of the world to come. And he says that the conduct of any person with Yerushalayim, the first thing that he does when he wakes up in the morning is to remind himself there's Olam Haba. And then, as a person goes through the day, look according to his madrega, without going overboard, without going crazy, to see, to hear how is a Kodesh Baruch Hu showing me in all the thoughts that I think, in all the words that I hear, in all the things that happen to me, about what it is that I need to do here in order that it should be in line with the tachas of Olam Haba. I have to tell you, I spoke to my Rav and I told him, I went to a psychiatrist not long ago. And because I needed some relief from anxieties. So I went to him. So the psychiatrist asked me, do you think about death? So I told him every single day. So he clicked on the computer that I'm depressed because I'm thinking about death every day. So me and my Rav, we burst out laughing. My Rav said, this is the craziest person on earth, this psychiatrist. I understand what he meant. He meant, are you like morbidly depressed that you're thinking about death and blah, 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 whatever it is. I meant very simply, yeah, I'm thinking about death every single day. Somebody my age should think about that every day. So my Rav laughed. He didn't roll on the floor because my Rav doesn't roll on the floor. But in a manner of speaking, he rolled on the floor laughing. How crazy this psychiatrist is. He says for this psychiatrist, to be normal means not to think about death until boom, it hits a person. That's normal. Let's take that and put it aside. Let's deal with an akuda that is shaykh to people like you and me. People who Baruch Hashem has had a full life, each person with his own story. And we all know when a person is young, he feels he can do absolutely everything. It starts in first grade. You can come up with a broken waist clock, pocket watch, and ask the first grade. He says, this clock does not work. Who can fix it? Everybody in first grade will lift his hand. I can fix it. I can fix it. I can fix it. As they proceed, in age, less and less hands will raise up. because you don't realize your limitations. Obviously, when you're in your teens, you can do absolutely everything, to the point that teens, commit suicide, thinking that they will be there watching everybody. Then that'll show them. Then they'll be sorry, but it'll be too late. Yeah, but you'll be dead, dummy. Yeah, but they don't think about that because they have no notion about this. Then a person gets to an age that, his urges are running, whatever it is, it's normal. That's the way life is. The end of life after 120 years seems so far away and so unrealistic. As Rabbeinu said it in like the most poignant way of putting it. And he said, when people are young, they figure there's a group of people, there's a club of people who die, but I'm not a member of that club. At that level, at that stage of life, every person, according to his, whatever it is, his madrega, whatever it is, in his childhood, teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, every person, 90s, every person wherever he is. When a person is still in that state where he feels that the sky's the limit, and I got my life before me, and I can do anything I want, and not pay the price. Remembering Olam Haba means you should know that there's a price for everything. One of the most bitter surprises of my physical life, as it were, was when I reached the age 50. And until the age 50, I thought I could do anything. I could smoke, I could drink, I could do whatever it is that I wanted. And suddenly, when I became 50 years old, I realized that all the chicken came back to roost. Then all the checks came into the bag. Then suddenly, the body demanded, all right, let's. Nobody told me. I thought it was, I didn't realize that. Boom! All of a sudden, it's like that. I didn't realize that. Anyhow, so when you're young, your connection to Olam Haba has to be, you had better be very careful, because as we always say, there's literally hell to pay. But then we gain more years. And as we gain more years, we go through bitterness, an ache here, a problem there, a medical problem here, a scare here, a fear there. That bitterness comes in. The connection to Olam Haba needs to flip a phase. We need to understand, yes, there's Olam Haba, and there's literally, for every single transgression, there has to be a tikkun. But we also have to remember now that there's not just purgatory and Gehenna, there's also Gan Eden. When we go through whatever bitterness we go through, this is the time for us to hang on to the knowledge that in the bitterness there's great peace. It is a cleansing experience. There is an Olam Haba, there is a Gan Eden. There's a closeness to Hashem, a closeness that can make a person become nullified if it wasn't that he was protected by Spheres Sabina. Everything is a preparation for good. It's very easy to get caught up if a person has Yir Shemayim, to get caught up with this thing of like, woe to me and what's going to happen to me. And you have to be agile. You have to remember when things are sweet and you can do anything, that yesh din v'yesh dayan. And when a person gets older and things aren't as funny as they used to be anymore, and bitterness, is visited here and there, you should remember that there is also, besides, the Kodesh Baruch Hu standing there with a stick for everything, waiting for everybody who did things wrong, there is also a Gan Eden, and even the Gan Eden itself is also preparation for a Gan Eden. The end is good, the end is only good. Rabbeinu is teaching us that the bitterness is the host, is the pill for shalom. That's the gift. It comes to wipe away all my averas. That means in our avodas Hashem, a person needs to come. We need to come to Kodesh Baruch Hu. I need to come to Kodesh Baruch Hu and tell Rebbeinu Shalom. Me personally, I don't suffer well. Some people go through, I don't know, whatever it is, and with tremendous, bravery and heroism. I have no idea how they do it. I get a cold, and my wife basically wants to emigrate to a different country. I'm being such a pain in the neck. I'm not good at it. It has to be a nekuda of speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And, saying, it's bitter to me. And it's A, Baruch Hashem. But B, I can't take more than that, because what happened is that this amount of bitterness, or more bitterness than what I have now, whatever it is, instead of bringing me close to you, is going to drive me away because I'm just not good at it. A person needs to be in touch with the Kodesh Baruch Hu on a very, very personal level. Dealing with that, how much can I suffer? What I can, what I can't, and lean on the Kodesh Baruch Hu, open up to him. Chizkiyahu HaMelech, praise the Kodesh Baruch Hu, you threw my sins behind you. And beg a Kodesh Baruch Hu to throw our own particular sins behind his back, so that we don't suffer more than we need to in order to gain peace, which is health in body and in spirit. Okay. After that cheerful rejoice, but we will stop here. And tomorrow we have Yimyatz Hashem learning in Breslov at 9:00. From what I understand, Motzei Shabbos, the clock falls, whatever. So as of Monday next week, Yimyatz Hashem, all shiurim throughout the week and Motzei Shabbos, Yimyatz Hashem will start at 8 and we'll finish at 9, Yimyatz Hashem. Hope to see you tomorrow night.